No, I have a very, it's just, I feel like he's a brother from another mother, and we got the same Heavenly Father, though, and his name is Brother Charlie. Charlie, come on down here, man. Brother Charlie. Charlie Dennis. I'll give him a hand over there, man. And, love you, man.
Well, I talked to Chris the other day, and I said, man, I really haven't done my testimony at our church yet, but I had went up there one time and had spoken at church, and I did a little something on men's night, but I kind of felt like I got led to kind of share some stuff about my life and my walk with Jesus. And I wanted to start with that with, kind of go back to the beginning that I'm from around here. Everybody knows me as Boog, so Charlie, they won't know who that is. They'll know that's my dad. But if you know me, they always call me Boog. And when my grandmom and them raised me from the time I was 3 years old, I guess, is when they kind of took me in. And they're from right here in Macedonia. Her sister is QV Tanner, and her other sister was Aunt Dolan Bilton. And many of y'all probably know them. And so they're right here from Macedonia. And so when my grandma took me in, she raised me all the way up till I was 18 years old. And man, she put me in church every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday. If they had church service, we were going to be there. You wasn't missing. So it didn't matter if we were playing baseball or what was going on, we were going. And I think by the time I graduated high school that I was saying, I'm moving out, getting my own place. And, hey, that's it. I'm done with church. I'm not going back to church anymore. I've been in church, for 18 years, and that trip's over with. And so I kind of, you get out of church, you quit going, and, you kind of quit all that fellowship. And as time went on, I got married. And, and as we were going on with our marriage, me and Crystal would talk, and Crystal would always be like, man, you got this kind of broken side to you where I didn't have any emotion. And that is a true fact. When I tell you I didn't have any emotion, I had no kind of emotion, no kind of empathy, sympathy, any of that. I just didn't have it. And when I would get up there, and to tell you how bad it was, my cousin grew up with me every day, and we were tight like that. And I remember Crystal walking into the room that day, and she goes, I got to tell you something. And I was like, oh, man, this must be bad. And then when she come off, she goes, your cousin killed herself last night. And as sad as it is to say, she looked at me and she's like, are you okay? And I was like, well, why wouldn't I be okay? Because, man, that's how messed up I was. I felt absolutely nothing. This guy was with me, every day. And so I started kind of reevaluating myself, and I was like, what is wrong with me? How come I don't feel anything? And I tell people all the time, I said, man, there's a reason FBI profilers can profile somebody. It's because things that happen when you're younger, I guess, kind of mess with you. And I guess the fact that my mom wasn't there and I didn't see my dad till I was 15 or 16 years old, that all that stuff kind of put a rage inside of you, I guess, and I kind of put walls up to where I wasn't going to let anybody in. So if nobody come in, nothing could ever happen because I can't feel any pain because nobody's there. But my wife got in, and she was probably the first one to try to break that barrier down. And so when I had to associate what love was, I associated that with her and the way I felt about her. So as time goes on, God starts working back on me. And I originally went to church at Bono Baptist, and I'll tell you, Ken Owens is a buddy of mine. I love Ken to death. And I was going to church there, and if it makes any sense to you, I know it's kind of hard to comprehend, but you're going to church, and you're there every day, but yet you're there for the people. So when I was trying to do something right or do something good, I wanted everybody to be proud of me that I was doing something right and doing something good, when really I never was talking to God or the main person I should have been talking to. And I didn't have the right relationship. And that, if you go that route, man, it's not going to last long. Because, of course, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, that's the whole thing that matters. You're not going to grow. And so I wasn't growing, and I decided, man, I'm not going to church no more, so I quit again. And because I had that empty side to me, I figured the best way to do it was when Ken called me, just don't answer the phone. So I just cut him off and blocked him and never talked to him again. And so that was the easiest way to do it. I didn't have to worry about it anymore. So, Crystal and I, over the course of our marriage, I start God starts messing with me a little bit, and I remember sitting in the tree stand, and I just started talking to him one day. And I started with like, Lord, if you hear, why can't you do this? Or why can't you show me this? Or why can't you give me a sign? Or why can't you answer a question? And then that kept going and going and going until, like, every time I'm in the tree stand, now I'm talking to God. And later on, something happened where I felt like, and I still ain't going to church yet now, so later on I kind of feel like I need to let people know that if I've ever wronged them or did anything to them, that I wanted them to forgive me for that. So out of the blue, I start calling these people up like, man, I apologize for so-and-so that happened 12 years ago, or man, I'm sorry that this happened because I hold a horrible grudge. I can tell you, my wife will tell you, 10 years and you probably still wasn't getting forgiven for a while, but that was the old me. And so as God's working on me and steady working on me, I get to where we decide we're going to go to church one day, and I talked with Crystal, and she was like, okay, we're going to go to church, but we're going to go to Hickory Grove. And I'm like, Hickory Grove, that's where your ex is going. I said, man, that's weird to go to church together. And so, of course, at first I didn't want to go. But then after talking with him, man, we start talking every day, and we're like buddies. And we decided we're going to go to church. It come that Sunday morning, and we didn't go. So Crystal's doing her thing on one side of the house, I'm doing my other. Now, you've been married for that long, you know each other. So we both know that we messing around, the clock's ticking, and we got to get to church. So when it gets to a certain time, we look at each other and go, well, it's too late now. We ain't going to be able to go. And when that happened, let me tell you, that was the first day that I really, really felt something. Something come over me that day, and I remember laying on that couch, and it was like the worst depression I'd ever felt in my life. And I was laying there, and I was like, what is going on with me? It was the biggest sadness that I'd ever felt. And I was like, man, is this all about not going to church today? You got to be kidding me. And so I'm laying there, and finally I prayed. I was like, Lord, please take this off of me. Whatever you put on me today, take this off of me. And I promise you, if I got to go barefooted through the snow next week, I'm going to be at church. And so after that, that following week, we went up to Hickory Grove, and we stepped in there. And I think Crystal was the first one. She went up front that day. And I was like, man, I didn't want to, even though that's what I felt like I wanted to do, I didn't want to take away from her going up front. I did not want to, that was her day. And I said, I'm going to go up another day. That way, I wanted that to be special for her. And so as time went on, I ended up going up front and giving my life to Jesus. And so, I'd asked for these things back in the tree stand that day, for people. I said, listen, just show me something. And the events that unfolded after this were just insane to me. The first thing that happened was we had took our grandbaby to Bible school. Now, we got Kaylee, Katie, and Kaylin. So we had Kaylin is going to Bible school with us. And all week long we went to Bible school. And that Friday, we were done. We went and met Katie and gave her Kaylin, and they were going back home. Well, we get home, and we was probably home. I think we was going to watch a movie because we had the baby all week long, so it was free night. And when we got to the house, the phone rang, and I heard her talking to Katie and all, and then I could see she was upset. She came in and said, Katie wrecked the car. Well, or was in a wreck. Well, the first thing I do is I'm firing off, she messed up the car I bought, because that's where my mind was going, which really I should have been going a whole different direction. And Crystal goes, no, they got T-boned by a drunk driver, and it hit the baby's back door. So we fly on down to Ridgefield, and I get there. And when we walked up to that car, and the baby's car seat was like sitting right here in the back. And most people walk up there and say, man, that Honda's got a good crash test rating. But I'm telling you, what I seen that day was a whole different story. And this really started the drive for me. When I looked at that car, I swear to you, it got T-boned dead in the door. But yet, the car door was bent out with a bow in the middle. And I said, man, all I could see, and I couldn't get it out of my head, and I wasn't going to say nothing at first because I said, man, I don't want to feel crazy. But I said, man, all I could see was Jesus' arm wrapped around that car seat when that door wrapped around it. So I was so fired up about it, I said, man, I got to share this when we get to church on Sunday. So I went up to Doug, and appreciate Doug coming here tonight. And I said, man, you give me a second, I'd like to just say a little something about what happened with this wreck and all. And so I did. And when I got up there, I kind of continued a little bit and was just like, man, I don't know why I was led to come to church here, but I was. And I said, and for the first time, the Holy Spirit had just, I knew what God was at that point, that amazing love that you can get. And so after that, I started moving forward. And you know how you are when you first become a Christian, man. You on fire. You want to do something. I want to help here. I want to do something. I can't stay on the sidelines. I got to be doing something. But you're still growing, so you don't really know enough yet to just jump into something. You need to take your time and step in. And we kind of started with this men's night. And after I had said that at the VBS week, they had just put that thing online. And so Monday morning, I get a buddy of mine, John Waters, called me. And he starts talking about Jesus and what God's been doing and what he's been feeling. So me and him's having a conversation. This is great. Well, the next thing I know, my buddy Johnny calls. Then John Lieber calls, and then it just keeps tumbling. By the end of the day, I had 9 people that's like, man, have been in the same boat I am or was, where I was fighting, to go to Jesus when he was steady pushing me in that direction. But yet I just didn't want to go there because I thought you had to be perfect. In the world of things, I was a good guy. I didn't do anything wrong. I ain't never been into drugs or stealing or nothing like that, but I like to drink. That was, everybody knew that. I mean, there wasn't much we didn't do that drinking wasn't involved. And then I had a problem if you work in construction. Everybody who talks every other word is a cuss word. So when you're around that all the time, it's hard to cut that habit out. I actually ended up getting me a rubber band so I could snap myself every time I said a word that I shouldn't say to cut that out. And as it wasn't long after that I was talking to Adam Castleman, a buddy of mine, and his father he got a colonoscopy done, and we didn't know anything. He just said, man, will you pray for my dad? And I was like, what? I said, man, I can't believe somebody called me to pray for him. I'm like the last person to call, you got to call my grandmama or something like that, who I've seen prayers, miracles happen when my grandmama prays. And so that day I was kind of sitting there, and I was like, man, I am going to pray for him. So I prayed for him. And I woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I could not sleep. And I just couldn't shake it. And I was like, man, somebody's got to talk to his daddy about Jesus, and it's got to happen right now. And so I didn't want to do it. So, of course, the first thing I did is I went to him and I said, hey, man, why don't you get your brother to call your daddy and talk to him about Jesus? It needs to happen now. And he was like, well, why don't you call my brother? I said, no, you call your brother. And I left it at that. Well, the next night, because I didn't want to do it. I knew God wanted me to do it, but I didn't want to do it. And so I'm sitting there, and Adam goes, well, my dad's, he's never been religious. And that just made it worse, because now I'm like, I'm really not going to do it. And so the next night, I couldn't sleep again. And I'm laying in the bed. I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Crystal's like, what are you doing? I was like, I got insomnia. But I had insomnia because I couldn't sleep about Bing, that it was so important that Bing knew about Jesus and the love Jesus had. So next morning, I called out. I said, did you talk to your brother? He goes, no, I want you to call my brother. And I knew right then. I said, man, I just got to do it. So I bit the bullet, and I sent him a text message. And when I texted him, I said, man, I just want to tell you something. I hate you going through what you're going through, but, Bo, God has laid it on me to tell you that he loves you. And I said, he really loves you, Bing. I said, he wants that relationship with you. And I said, man, you're a good man. There's no question about it. But it don't matter how good we are. If you ain't got Jesus, you don't have nothing. It don't matter how good a person you are. And he cut me off right there and said, I believe. And I said, but you don't know how good that makes me feel to hear you say that you believe. So, I didn't want to go any farther. So I said, man, you need to get with a pastor, or I'll find you a pastor. And he's like, no, Stacy's going to do it. And they ended up getting Chris. And I didn't even know it at the time. So me and Adam, we go fishing that evening. And we're out on the water. And we're riding and fishing. And he gets a phone call. And Adam kind of looks over at me, and he goes, man, Daddy just got saved, and he's getting baptized on Monday. And, man, you'd have thought we won $1 million. We was jumping up in the boat, hollering. Anybody in the lake could have heard us from one end to the other. We were so excited that he got saved. And he got baptized on Monday, and he died the next week. And we had no idea that was coming. And that was the urgency. And that's why, I don't even care anymore. People can think I'm crazy when I come to say something to them, but if God leads me, I'm just going to say it, because how would I felt if I hadn't listened? I didn't do anything. And that's why at first I didn't even share the story with anybody, because I said, man, I want y'all to know I ain't done a thing. All I did was I did it, but didn't want to do what he asked me to do. But man, if we don't get out there and talk to people and try to share Jesus with them, who's going to do it? I hear people all the time, like, I got to be straight and I got to be this. And, they give me a little devil in the water this year about Reverend Boog, because, I guess I'll preach a little bit. My wife's laughing because she knows that's true. And I'll be like, man, I'm not trying to preach to anybody. I'm trying to, when you got those people out there, I consider those my people. Those guys that's out there, they're good guys, and they're just drinking and doing stuff and having a good time. Those are the guys that I want to get in here, because if they could ever feel what I feel and ever know the truth, their life will be changed dramatically. It wasn't long ago, my wife and her father, they were so close. And so Crystal didn't take everything very good with Mr. Marty when he got sick. And the other day, we finally got to talking about stuff like that. And I remember walking up to the front of the church. Well, I ain't the person to usually go up there and pray at the altar. But I did, because Crystal wasn't doing good, and we were arguing. And I hope she don't get mad at me for sharing this, but, we wouldn't get along very well. And so I went to the front of the church, and I prayed. I was like, what is going on, God? We've been together for 18 years, and all of a sudden this year is a nuclear disaster. And I said, I can't figure out what you trying to do. I said, man, I'm doing what you asking me to do, and things ain't getting no better. And I kind of left it at that at altar. Well, I never told anybody. I never told our pastor. I never told anybody what I prayed for. And it was that Tuesday that Crystal come up to me, and I remember it like yesterday. She walked up to me, and she goes, hey, you got a minute we can talk? And I said, yeah. And she came to me, she goes, man, I want to tell you something. I love you more than anything in this world. And I don't know what's been going on. I took things out on you because my dad was sick. And she goes, and some of the stuff you asked for. And I said, yes, you're correct. I asked for it. And so, but she said, one thing I'm going to tell you from this point on, that's over with. We're back to like we used to be. And I'm going to tell you something. It happened like that. So at first, I don't even realize what's going on, because everything's so good and all, and I forgot to thank the one person that I went and prayed to straighten it all out, because that's how we get. We forget to give the praise where it needs to go. And it wasn't long after that I had to go to the doctor's office, and I had a massive headache. It was so bad that it put me on the ground. I've never had a headache before, so I said, man, I'm a hypochondriac, so anytime something goes on, I'm going to the doctor, we're checking it out. So I get to the doctor, and I get a call. It's Sunday night. So, of course, Crystal's sitting there. But they calling you on Sunday night. It's bad. So I get a call on Sunday night, and sure enough, the doctor goes, man, you got 2 aneurysms in your head, and you got to be here first thing in the morning. And I was like, oh, man, you got to be kidding me. So I called Granny first, because, of course, if I seen Granny pray, and when Granny prays, things happen. And then they called the church, and they called other churches, and I had all these people praying. And it was Monday morning. I was supposed to be there emergency 11 o'clock. I got a call at 8:30 that the neurologist is there, and he was like, Mr. Dennis. And I said, yes, sir. He goes, we don't need you here today. And I go, what do you mean you don't need me here today? He goes, well, we just looked at your scans, and it was a spot on the scans, and it was smudged, and it wiped off. And he didn't have to tell me anything after that. I hung that phone up, and as soon as I hung it up, I called Granny, and I said, Granny, thank you for praying for me, because the power of prayer, the funniest thing is, when I was a kid, I remember, Granny found some beer in the back of my truck, and she was like, hey, boy, is that your devil's water in the truck? And I was like, oh, no, Granny, ain't my devil's water. That's somebody else's devil's water. They left it back there. And it was right after that every time I would have a drink, I would get a bladder infection. And it happened like 5 times back to back. And if you ever had a bladder infection and had to take them blue pills, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So after that, she found some cigarettes in the truck. She was like, boy, you smoking? I was like, oh, no, Granny. No, I was smoking for a month and a half. That's all I smoked my whole life, was a month and a half. And Granny seen the cigarettes. Well, the next thing you know, I'm allergic to cigarette smoke. So, and this is true. My throat will close up around cigarette smoke. And I remember walking in there to Granny, and I said, Granny, won't you do me a favor? She goes, what's that, son? I said, how about quit praying for me? You're ruining my life. And I told my wife, I said, my, how the tables turn later on when you got to run back and tell Granny what an amazing person she was to stand by the whole time and try to guide me right. You know, the Bible says that if you raise your children in the church, they might leave. They're going to come back. And I'm here today to tell you that's the truth. And, you know, the last thing I wanted to share, I mean, some of y'all was probably here at Mr. Marty's funeral. And when I come up to start talking about some of that stuff, because this stuff just amazes me. You know, I remember sitting in that tree stand and asking God, I said, man, show me something, prove me something, answer my questions. And he's done it tenfold. So, you know, with Mr. Marty, I remember walking in there, and Crystal's grandmama had passed away. And I felt the Holy Spirit that day in that room. And so when we left out, I told Crystal, I said, man, your grandma was saved. She was, how you know my grandma was saved? I said, because I know. And so I told her, well, she called her daddy, of course. And her daddy called Chris, of course. And Chris had said the same exact thing to Mr. Marty. And a lot of y'all in here might not know, but right before Mr. Marty passed away, he had told Miss Barbara that he was talking to his mama and that his mama was going to get to take him home. And I said, man, what a good man you got to be for God to let your mama come tell you it's all going to be okay and that she's taking you home. What a feeling and a peace you got to have to know that. And the main thing I wanted to hit on, and if none of y'all got to hear this, was when Mr. Marty left, because that thing still to this day blows me away. When Miss Barbara said that, the doctor called her and said that, you know, that he needed her to wait and do not leave the hospital. You need to talk to her. And of course, she's like, what's going on? And he said that when Mr. Marty was there, and right when he was getting ready to leave, that he had reached out his hand. Well, first he said, is he a Christian? And she goes, yeah. She goes, does he believe in God? She's like, yeah. And she's thinking, like, what is he asking all these questions for? And the doctor said, man, that he believed in science. That's what he was taught, science, that you don't believe in religion. And he said when Mr. Marty reached out his hand and smiled, and when he breathed that last breath, that his hand fell, that the glow on his face, that it just lit up when he was smiling, that he knew there was something out there, and he needed to find that. And, man, I'm telling you, that there, to me, is the greatest story that come out of all of this when I think about that. Because, man, here's a guy who could have been, man, he could have been mad at everybody, but he wasn't. And he stuck it out for Jesus. And so today, I just wanted to come up here and say, man, that, you know, Jesus took a guy like me who really was just rowdy, rambunctious, and liked to drink some. And he changed me. And when I say he changed me, when I tell you I was broken before, I'm not broken anymore. Because now, when I see somebody hurt, I feel for them. When I see something happen like that, he's changed my life till I could never in here begin to tell y'all how he's changed it. You know, I think my wife would tell you that the difference in me, that I'm not that same person that I used to be. Because I am a new person who's walking in Christ. And when Jesus gets a hold of you, I can't even explain the truth that I know now. And I just want to go out there and share that with everybody and let them know that, man, no matter what you're struggling with, no matter what you're fighting with, God is there to get you through it. And he will always get you through it. And from this day forward, I can promise you, when he asks me to do something, I'm going to do it. And the main thing I want to do is I want to get out there and tell these guys that, man, you ain't got to be perfect to walk in this door to this church right here. You get in this church right here and you let Jesus work on you and he'll fix it from there. That's the one you need to be worrying about. And so I appreciate y'all letting me come up here today, and I thank y'all, and appreciate it.